Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. Welcome to our Tuesday night ritual, 5 p.m. every Arizona time, every Tuesday for the last, 4 or 5 years now. So we have with us our very special guest, the managing member of Test Geek Exam Prep LLC, Brian, the Test Geek in living form. I'm the Series 7 Guru, aka Dean Tenney. If you do have a question for us tonight, we have a certain format. We would like to know, just in general, for giggles, where you're joining us from and what exam you're taking. We do have an international audience. YouTube Analytics says my number one international market is India. Surprising enough. I would have thought it would be Brazil, but let us know where you're joining us from. If you do have a question, please put it in the format of SIE, all caps, for example, or S7, capital Q. That helps Brian and I kind of pick it out of the chat. So we'll get some housekeeping and admin done, and then we'll see what we can help you with. So let's get some of that done. If you're looking for a free supplement to your paid study materials, there's nothing better than my YouTube channel. We have, Brian, we're coming up on, can you believe it, 9 million views. Crazy. We have over 2,200 videos. 60,000 subscribers.
Wow.
I've organized the channel by playlist. So if you're taking your 66, for example, you'd find the 66 playlist. The first one is a podcast that Brian and I did, which gives you a nice overview of the terrain. You know, we want you to read the book cover to cover, but if you want to see what it looks like and you're not going to read the book cover to cover, or we're going to do it afterwards, watch that podcast. Then we have a playlist of lectures. Then we have a playlist of practice test and practice questions, and we have a playlist of explication. Those playlists are in suggested watch order, and the videos in the playlists are in suggested watch order. So if you're starting with us with the SIE, same process. Now, if you're looking for a particular topic, don't be looking for a needle in a haystack, right? So if you're trying to binge, well, then use the playlist. But if you're looking like accrued interest or margin, or number, what else? We get these questions all the time. Use the channel search bar. Put in accrued interest or margin or parity. And my goodness, 20, 30 videos will show up and you can find it that way. Now, that's okay because Brian and I know that we're going to get asked questions we've been asked and answered many times. But, you know, if you don't make it on a Tuesday night, use the channel search bar and you'll find a video answer. I would be surprised if you don't. Now, this is not a time to be frugal. If you do have the resources, you might want to consider a paid supplement. I'm the best free supplement. If you want a paid supplement, you should get a Kaplan QBank. On the Series 7, you can get 3,600 plus performance opportunities, practice questions, a tracker, and $55.80. What a deal. And if you're looking for distillation, because boy, you know, all the test prep vendors, their books are like this big. And Brian, besides being a test geek, is what I call a master distiller. He's very good at distilling that information into the smallest amount of testable content. So all on Brian, that's about $100 with our Guru 20 discount code, right? That's the videos, the entire video course, his PDFs, and I think one of the most important things is practice tests, which I believe have the strongest correlation to the actual exams. If you want, you can buy a la carte. We don't recommend it, but you can buy his PDF or his practice test separately. But all in, about $100. We do have some social media, some, other tribes if you want to join. You're not alone. We have a Facebook group. That's coming up on 2,300 members. Woohoo! You know, we're getting 8, 9, 10 posts a day. It kind of has tractions of its own. I'm there, but I mean, I'm not there as a babysitter. So feel free to join us there. That's called Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. Baby brokers is a term of endearment in the securities industry. And a hat trick is 3 successes in a row. SIE 766, SIE 663. You get the general idea. Anyways, Brian, that's really exciting. We're now having lots of people on the channel and on Facebook who are using the term hat trick to for their testing registration journey. We also have Reddit communities. Our Reddit communities, we have a subreddit for Series 6, our Series 6. We have a Reddit community for SIE and Series 7, our Series 7. We have a Reddit community for 63, 65, 66, our Series 66. And we have a Reddit community for 9, 10s, and 24s, our Series 24. If you win the coaching call tonight, you do not win tutoring at a date and time of your choosing. What you win is a coaching call, and the way you access your winnings is to go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. You go to the class tab, you'll see coaching call, and that's how you claim your winnings. Everything on my YouTube channel is free. There's no upsells of any kind, no channel memberships, no merch, no coffee cups, no nothing. On my booking page, there's very few things that are free. The coaching call for drawing winners is free, and we do a weekly jam session. That's free. Anybody can join that. And then I have an electronic whiteboard where I can be a little more in depth on answering questions as we can tonight. This Thursday, you can go there and join us for our book club. Our book club, we do a monthly reading. We did She-Wolves about ladies in the securities industry. We did Michael Dell's memoir. That was a great read. We did The Harder I Work, I Lucky I Get by Joe Ricketts, founder of TD Ameritrade, Schwab's Invested. This Thursday, we're doing Aaron Sorkin's 1929. Now, it's Tuesday. If you haven't read the book, I don't think you're going to be able to read it by Thursday. It's a real book. But that's what we're doing. So check that out. Okay, let's see, Brian, what we got in going on in comments and see what we can help people with. Let me get rid of our Guru Nation Book Club banner. Okay, boom, boom. Hi, I am registered rep taking my Series 10. Ooh, man.
Yikes.
That is a real slog, man. That is a real testing victory. Second time, not surprised. That one is tough. My second attempt is scheduled for 11/24 this coming Monday. Been using STC and training consultants, been scoring in the 80s. Okay. Try as much as possible not to memorize the questions and answers. So I like the 80 score, but we don't want to be memorizing. We want to understand that content. I do have a Series 10 playlist on my YouTube channel, and there is a Series 10 exam I would recommend you watch where you can hit pause, come up with your answer, hit play, and then, I explicate it for you. And that is a Kaplan Series 10. So that might give you another data point on where you're at with those scores, because that would be questions you have not seen. So if you're taking the Series 10, you might want to access my Series 10 playlist, particularly that practice exam. I only missed 1 point. Well, that's good. So, you remember every draw is different. And so I don't want to put out any negative vibes. Make sure you're not preparing for the last draw you got where you missed it by 1 point. Make sure you're bringing everything up so you can take down any draw. So I like that you missed it by 1 point. I mean, those scores I think sometimes are more depressing than completely blowing it. But just make sure you're prepared for the draw you're going to get, not the draw you missed by 1 point. I don't know what that means, or keep testing. Well, I remember, how far out are you? 11/24. I would, if I were a corporate trainer and I was helping you on the 10, I would probably want 2 more practice test scores as data points. And remember, you should be doing as much remediation time on those exams as testing itself. I think 2 scores, no more than that, just to confirm where you're at. And again, I recommend that Kaplan. So keep testing, keep laying base, but no more than 2. I think 2 is sufficient. What's this, the 18th? So what's that, like about a week from now?
Yeah, next Monday.
There you go. There, years ago, I've been at it a long time. Brian and I are OGs. Between Brian and I, we've helped tens of thousands of test takers make their marks over the years. And we've been doing it a long time. Our collective wisdom, I don't know, Brian, what do you think? We're dating ourselves 6-7 decades between the two of us, probably.
Over 60 years.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Woo! Ask for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. If you are new with us, that's what we do when people pass the exam. And we also, Adam, toast in their honor. Tonight, we are, because it's cold and damp here off grid, And so what a better day for a scotch from Islay. Islay is a windswept island in Scotland where they make smoky, peaty scotches, single malts, like a Lagavulin. And so we salute in your honor. And the cup says, that's what I do. I drink and know things. I smoke, I drink, and I know things. And Adam, too bad you didn't pass last week. Brian and I had some 23-year-old Pappy. Oof. And then we had a 25-year Macallan. Woo!
Special evening.
A very special evening.
Yes, it was.
Managed to get a couple 90s on STC, and but never below 80 at this point. I like it. Again, my only warning, I'm not worried about you, but my only warning is this is for all test takers. Make sure, very, very rarely. So 80, high 80s, low 90s. Brian and I love that. But very rarely we'll have somebody who scores very high and they miss the mark. And almost always it's because, particularly on exams like the 10, it's because they've memorized the question and answer and not understood the concept. And then they get different phraseology and they struggle. So just confirm those data points, but it's a champagne problem. Champagne problems means it's not a real problem. I mean, I would prefer that somebody's getting high scores and take the chance of that than that they're in the 50s or something. Mid 70s, that's what we like. That's what Brian and I want you at. So that's good. Saturday, love it. Different language than your ride-alongs? Well, no. If that was the case, Vinay, you'd be looking in the comments section and you'd hear all kinds of people bitching about, hey, these things aren't anything like the exam. Quite on the contrary, if you check out any of my videos in the comments, you will find that people say, hey, this was spot on. Thank you very much. So, Brian's spot on. I'm spot on. I have a couple exams. I didn't, what exam are you taking? But I have some exams that come from debrief. They're not verbatim on the test, but I'll probably move them to the top of the playlist. They come from debrief. So, Brian, I just did your extra practice questions on the 65 yesterday. I think I do that with Adam. No, I do it with Jason. Yeah. And you had some that I thought were pretty spot on too. And then, I had a couple where I thought, man, that Brian, what a jerk. He's a bigger jerk than the real jerks that write the test. So.
Those extra questions are from feedback. So
there you go. I figured as much. I got his permission to put it up on the channel, and I did say that, Brian. So you might hear some people say, "Oh, that guy on the video called you a jerk." But I said this isn't really Brian being much a jerk as he is, incorporating feedback into his exam. Hint, hint, hint.
For that SIE, make sure he does the FINRA exam.
Absolutely, Vinay. Yep. There's 2 SIE practice tests you got to get done before Saturday. One is the FINRA website. That I think is very reflective of what you're going to see. It's free. It's great the first time. It loses its diagnostic predictive capability after the first time. Vinay liked that one so much that I did a doppelganger version. I actually took the answer sets from the FINRA SIE practice, kept the answer sets, but rotated and wrote different questions. Because on that FINRA practice test, Vinay, almost every distractor wrong answer is a correct answer to a different question. And so what I did was just keep the answer set and rotate that. Someday, Brian, I'm going to write an entire practice test that isn't have questions, just answer sets. It's just going to be answer sets. And then, I'm going to do a video where, I'll rotate it and say, okay, let's talk about what these would be the right answers to, right? Kind of like a version of Jeopardy. Jordan, you're in Scottsdale, Arizona, right? Man, I went to Arizona State, and boy, every time I go to the Phoenix, Scottsdale area to see how much that place has grown just blows my mind. I belong to a cigar lounge in Prescott, Arizona, and I hear there's some wonderful cigar lounges in Phoenix, Scottsdale. So next time I'm in that neighborhood, I'm going to probably check out a couple of those cigar lounges. But usually I'm equidistant off grid to Las Vegas and Phoenix. And if I'm deciding to go left to Las Vegas or right to Phoenix, usually Las Vegas. There's a little more going on fun-wise. All right, Fort Worth, Texas. Woohoo. I just watched the recent drop of Landman.
I did too.
I had Fort Worth, and I had a Mexican dinner in Fort Worth. What was the name of that place? Oh my God, it was so good. SIE, there you go. Second attempt, we've talked about that. Hendertucky, was that like Kentucky?
As in Henderson.
Henderson, there you go. Henderson. Hi, Dean and Brian. 2 weeks away from my Series 7. I like those scores. Brian's very reflective. A lot of videos. How can I improve my score? Well, remember we said you should be spending as much time on remediation on those exams as doing them. So I don't think you should just, indiscriminately be doing practice tests because the score won't go up. So how you improve the score? I had a guy who was getting like 60, 60, 60. I said, you got to stop. Right? 2 weeks away, you stop, you lay more base. How do you lay more base? You use the performance tracker at Kaplan to decide what areas need the remediation. And then you go watch a video on that, do the reading on that, do the video to put a dent in the reading, or do the reading and then you watch the video to consolidate that. You do some practice questions on that particular area. And once you get that kind of remediation done, then you take your next practice exam. And don't rush yourself, no more than one a day. And I think that will bring that score up consistently. But even with those scores, I think you're on pace, you're on target, you're in a good spot. Brian?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate exactly what I've been having a lot of success with subsequent test takers, those who missed the mark, or they got test scores, practice final scores in the high 60s, low 70s, and they're trying to up the score. Kind of the same process, right? And Dean is absolutely right. If you systematize it, you've got to spend as much time, that's performance tracker, PT, performance tracker. You've got to spend as much time remediating. I work with a lot of people who take multiple practice finals every day. For a Series 65, that's 6 hours of testing. We don't like that. Take one, right? And then run the performance tracker, find the units that are weakest. And you can do this on any exam, right? Find the 2, maybe 3 weakest units. Find those corresponding videos in Dean's videos, or if you have Test Geeks videos, right? Just to reinforce those areas. And then on the QBank, all you really need is a 10 to 12 question, not 47 questions on any unit, right? Because there's certainly not that many questions on the test, right? So what you're doing is remediating, just getting reinforcement on those weak areas, right? So take the practice final, find the weak areas, and then the next day you can take another practice final. Let's see if those scores are increasing, especially in the weak areas. I'm getting a lot of success, Dean, from people who are doing this.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Oh, Jacob, thank you so much. I always love to see people from LinkedIn. Oh, look at that, Brian. He's got a whiteboard too. Wow, Jacob, man. Hey, it's your doppelganger. Brian's doppelganger. I love it.
Brothers from a different mother.
Our preferred platform is YouTube, but we do broadcast to both Facebook and LinkedIn. So, Jacob, thank you so much for joining us from Utah. All right, beautiful, beautiful state. I'm writing a 7. Ooh, Michelle must be like British or something. That's like a British number taking an exam. Right. I'm writing a 7 on December 1st, 66. Pray for me. Well, listen, I don't know what your thoughts are about God, but he's probably got other things to do besides help you pass a 7 exam. My favorite saying, Michelle, is God helps them who help themselves. Those who sit passively, waiting for fortune to shower her gifts upon them, are likely to wait a very long time. So if you want to, talk to my mom has 100% pass rate in her prayer box. So, maybe send something Mom's way, maybe a bingo card. Maybe she'll put her in a prayer box a bit. We will send you positive energy for sure. How are you doing on the math questions, Yasha? Well, math questions, there are 3 styles of questions on exams, all exams, by the way. I think one of the things that makes Series 10 hard is it doesn't have as many practical application questions, a lot more judgment questions, but you get recognition, practical application, and judgment. And recognition is just like settlement, T+1, option agreement back within 15 days, that kind of stuff. Practical application is like, what's the equity in the account? What's the break even? What is parity? And we don't want to give up practical application questions either, because there's no interpretation of a right answer. We want to save our misses for judgment questions. SIE is almost all recognition, couple practical application, almost no judgment. About 10% of the exam are judgment questions. And then 10, lots of judgment questions because you're a sales supervisor. So make sure you can do the math. I have a video for Series 7 called All the Math Necessary to Pass Your Exam. Check it out. Tips for a dump sheet for 63. Well, Puddles, I don't think the 63 lends itself to a dump sheet. And if you're going tomorrow, I just don't really think anything we would say to you would be productive except to get a good night's rest. You're being at rest and having your mind in a good spot because you want your reading skills in top form. So I don't have any tips for a dump sheet on NASA exams. They don't lend themselves well to that. But you could certainly Google. And now that you're told me you're testing tomorrow, I really don't think it would be productive for you to do anything at this point except to get a good night's rest. That would be. Now, I do have a video I would recommend called 63 in 60 minutes. Watch that tonight and maybe or in the morning. I think that would be very helpful. I also have a video called The Mighty 90, the Uniform Securities Act. That's the 63 and 90 minutes. So you could pick the 60-minute version or the 90-minute version. And again, as I was telling Vinay earlier, there's lots of test questions in there. If you look at the comments, you'll see that people say, hey, Dean, thank you so much. Spot on. All right, 65 tomorrow. All right, Kelsey, we're sending you some good energy. My favorite tequila, I have lots of favorite tequilas, but we'll start with the maker. My favorite maker of tequila is Herradura. And then I think the finest tequila in the world is the Selection Suprema. So that's the Herradura Selection Suprema. My next favorite tequila is El Tesoro. That's the treasure in Espanol. And that is Paradiso is my favorite tequila. I am blessed because the gift or gratuity rule does not apply to Brian and I. And so feel free to send us adult cocktail or spirits of your choice. I have been doing pretty well. Kind of disappointing, Puddles. I'm a bourbon guy. I like makers. I told you, Brian, I did a Pappy, a 23-year-old Pappy Van Winkle. Oh, that was so smooth. But somebody sent me a Whistle Pig, and I just thought it was too sweet. I didn't really like it so much. I feel bad because I'm a bourbon guy. And I'm hoping that it doesn't affect my palate and I don't like makers anymore or Bookers or Pappy. Can I go over the effect to SMA long and short accounts? So I can. I have a lot of videos on this. The SMA is your credit line that you have as a result of the securities moving your way. I think the best analogy would be a house. The market value of the house minus the mortgage on the house equals the equity of the house. And you might have, particularly if you bought a house long ago, excess equity. And a bank might be willing to say to you, hey, here's a checkbook, and feel free to write a check, and we'll clear it. We're going to add it to your loan, your mortgage. That's excess equity. Now, in your margin account, every day I'm going to mark you to market. And I say, hey, you bought 1,000 shares at 40, and the stock has gone to 50. You still owe the brokerage firm $20,000. I'm allowed to extend you credit of $25,000 on 50, and you've only borrowed 20 for me. I say, just Kane, you have $5,000 in excess equity. Would you like to have that as cash, or would you like to purchase additional securities? My favorite would be purchase additional securities. And you say, well, Dean, if the stock goes back down to 40 tomorrow, I'm going to lose access to that excess equity. I said, no, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, just Kane. I'm going to make a special memorandum to your account that on today you had $5,000 more than you needed. I'm going to create a holding tank for that SMA. So you told me you liked it at 40. You said you didn't like it at 50. The stock goes back down to 40. I say, hey, how do you feel about buying some more at 40? You told me you liked it at 40. It's back at 40. You go, damn, I don't have any excess equity. I go, I know. Aren't you glad I made that special memorandum to your account? That's a credit line. You can have that as cash, or you can use it to increase the position. Same thing on the short position, right? You call me, you say, hey, Dean, I want to short 1,000 shares at 40. I say, okay, you're going to have to put up 20 grand. The classical margin equation short is the credit register, in this example, $60,000, 40 grand from selling the stock you don't own, plus the 20 you put with it. The second is the same thing, what you owe. In a long account, what you owe is money. In a short account, what you owe is securities. And so the securities go to 30. That's the good news, right? I call you and say, hey, just gain. You sold it high. And right now, I'm not suggesting you buy it back, but you could. Equity always represents what you'd have to close the account. If you close the account, gave back the securities, you'd have 30 grand. I'm allowed to extend you credit. And so now I'm going to do a mark to market. You have $30,000. You only need 15. You have $15,000 in excess equity. You can short some more stock. You can have it as cash. You say, do I have to do anything today? I go, nope. I'm going to make a special memorandum to your account that on today you had excess equity of. And so that's what your SMA is. Maybe on margin 3-4 questions max, and they're pretty straightforward. It's not a target-rich environment on your Series 7. I do have a class replay on margin. I have a lecture called Margin Don't Overdose. If you put SMA into my channel search bar, you can see me work several examples of questions asking about SMA, right? Brian, would you add anything to that SMA discussion?
Nope. Except for the buying power that it provides.
Yeah, 2 times your SMA is either your buying power long or your selling power short. So, right? So cash you can have, if you have SMA of 5,000, you can have 5,000 cash or buy $10,000 worth of securities. All test prep vendors go way overboard on margin.
Way over.
The 2 areas I think that test prep vendors go way overboard are margin and partnerships as it relates to passing the Series 7. Second time, December 4th, we'll be doing a tutoring session Thursday. Jordan, okay, I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be Thursday. I'll see you then. I'm glad you were able to find a spot because I am so booked. It's crazy. So I'll see you then. If an agent gets a call from a customer to sell all shares of ABC, which is 10% of the company, an insider, the agent should do what? Well, silence. I don't think it'll be asked this way. It'll be asked about Rule 144, right? So if you own 10% of a company, you are a principal stockholder. Officers, directors, and principal stockholders have volume limitations on how much they can sell. They have to file Form 144 at or prior. They can sell up to 1% of the outstanding stock or the average of the last 4 weeks trading volume, whichever is greater, up to 4 times a year. So this will not be asked the way you have put it into the chat. This will be a question about either recognition and or practical application of what's called Rule 144. This guy's not going to be able to sell all the shares is the point.
No, he won't.
Investment companies, alternative products, and fundamental analysis. Well, mutual funds are definitely there. I think that would be the most important thing of those 3 areas. Mutual funds, alternative products. Yeah, you should know what an ETF is, and you should be able to contrast an ETF with a mutual fund, and you should be able to contrast an ETN with an ETF. Fundamental analysis, I wouldn't worry about. When you come for your 66, the balance sheet stuff is going to be way more testable. But fundamental analysis, you might get working capital perhaps, but it's, again, not a target-rich environment on Series 7 because, again, as a retail rep, you have research analysts that do this. They do the fundamental analysis. I would be able to make a distinction between fundamental analysis on my 7 and technical analysis. Now, good news, I know you're not surprised. I have videos on both. I have videos on technical analysis and I have videos on fundamental analysis. Brian, it looks like you're looking quizzical there. Are you looking at this one?
I'm good. No, I'm just looking through the chat.
Okay, good. Thank you. I could tell. I thought you were either looking at this one or that one.
Yeah.
I got a 68. Damn, that hurts. Yeah, I learned so much. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you should be able to go over the top next time. I mean, it's unfortunate, but, it happens. Nobody really cares about what, your journey through the testing thing. I think sometimes it's better to have a little misfortune and deal with that early in the testing journey, right? Because I bet now once you circle back and you get that SIE done, you'll pay a little more attention to that Series 7 dragon that's coming up, right? So no worries. 2 weeks, done 2,000 out of 3,557 with an average of 74. Love it. Any tips for the last 2 weeks of prep? Well, I think what you're doing is working. The 74s are good. Hopefully we don't see any 67s, 71s anymore. Brian and I are a little different in this regard. I don't know how long it took you to get 2,000 questions, but I would like you to attempt to exhaust the Kaplan QBank. And 2 weeks, I think that's doable. So if you have 1,500 questions left, right? I'm taking 3,557 minus 2,000. That means you have 1,557 unused questions. You said 2 weeks. So we'll call that 10 days because, you want to do other things. That would mean you need about 150 questions a day to exhaust that QBank. I would probably do that in the context of you don't want to do more than one practice exam a day, but you should be doing other things. Now, Brian doesn't believe you need to do as many questions as I think you should do, but there's a direct correlation to passing the exam based on QBank usage. When somebody misses their mark, when I was a corporate trainer and I hire and fire people for not passing, the first thing when somebody didn't pass is I'd look at their QBank usage rate. And almost invariably, the correlation is they didn't do enough questions, whatever the enough is. Brian, I think thinks 2,000 might be adequate depending on where you're at. I don't think I would call it a day with 2,000 with those scores, though. Brian, your thoughts on that? I know you don't believe like me that you should do that.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into that debate, but again, they're pretty decent practice final scores. And as Dean and I both profess, have you run the performance tracker? What are your weakest areas on those practice finals? Can you see consistency? That's what I'm looking for. I want to look for those weak areas so that we can buttress those through the videos and some practice quizzes.
Good point. SIE tomorrow. Well, any tips? Yes. Get a good night's sleep, right? Get a good night's sleep.
Night.
So at this point, you shouldn't be here. You should be counting correct answers on your dream practice test. I don't know. When I passed the 7 a couple years back, it took me 2 times. Okay, well, like I say, as you know, already taken a 10, right? So it didn't affect your ability to become a sales supervisor. So that's our point. I was getting the math down about investment companies. Yeah. Well, there's 2 scenarios, math on investment companies. The 2 math things to be able to do, less so on SIE, but certainly on Series 6 and certainly on Series 7. The 2 situations are when given the NAV and the public offering price, be able to calculate the percentage sales charge. The most we can charge is 8.5%, right? So I'll just make up one. I tell you on the test that the NAV is $9.15. The public offering price is $10. What is the percentage sales charge? Well, you take the pop minus the NAV, 85 cents. You divide by 10, you tell me 8.5%. Now, if you do that on 6 or 7, and you come up with 9 or 10%, it's got to be a closed-end fund. Now, the second scenario that shows up on the exam, both 6 and 7, less likely on SIE, but could be, is recalculating the public offering price. So I just told you, for example, that an NAV of $9.15, $10, and that was 8.5%. But then I tell you that there's a quantity discount. There's a break point at $50,000. And I tell you that the break point at $50,000 is a 6% sales charge. And now I ask you, what is the public offering price based on that? It's not 10. To do that, we're going to take the NAV, $9.15, and we're going to divide by 1 or 100% minus 6%. So 915, I'll just do it on my calculator. 915. By the way, this is the same calculator they give you on the test. It's the same orange calculator. So I'm joking. If I'm not really joking, if you don't have a simple function calculator, go buy one. Because, if you're using like a financial calculator, it might freak you out. Now, Brian is a bigger math geek than me, so he probably did it in his head. I got 973, Brian. Is that what you got?
I don't do that.
Oh, okay. No, I thought maybe, when I go to Vegas with him, he's like Rain Man. He knows. I shouldn't tease Brian so much because sometimes I make a tease and people think I'm serious. Like I thought of myself today, Brian, on Kramer on CNBC. I thought it was very interesting this morning on CNBC. They had 2 head and shoulders patterns.
Nice.
They're talking technical analysis.
Was it for NVIDIA?
Yeah. It was it was one of the AI companies. I remember inverted. It was a regular head and shoulders signal of a reversal, and they were talking about the reversal. Anyways, what I was going to say is Kramer had his phone, and he went to do something on his phone, and a lady showed up in the picture, and you could tell he's been on social media because he goes, "Calm down, it's my wife." Because I know he thought people were, look at Kramer, he's got some lady on his phone. Computing taxable equivalent yields for munis and corporates. Well, taxable equivalent is munis. Corporate would be tax-free equivalent, right? So this is a suitability question. Anytime we can get a suitability question that ends up being math, we're always big fans of that. And so let's do taxable equivalent first, or we could do taxable. So Brian's got it up there. Let's say we're considering buying a 4% muni. A 4% muni. And Brian says, well, Dean, corporate bonds pay 6. I go, listen, Brian, you can't compare apples to oranges. I mean, that's an unfair comparison. Now, what we got to do is figure out in your tax bracket, Brian, what is getting 4% tax-free worth? And Brian says, Dean, I'm pretty blessed. I'm in a 40% tax bracket. I go, woo. The more blessed you are, the higher your tax bracket. So in this example, we're going to take 4. We're going to divide by Brian's tax bracket, 100% minus 40.60. And we say, Brian, in your tax bracket, getting 4 and not paying taxes is the same as getting 6.66. And so the corporate bond paying 6 is not a good deal for you. Munis are for rich people like you, right? Now, the other way is Brian says, well, Dean, I'm considering buying a 7% corporate bond. And we already know that 7 would be a better deal. But now we would take the 7% and we would times it by 100% minus his tax bracket. I said, Brian, in your tax bracket, getting 7 after you pay taxes is the equivalent of getting 4.2, right? And 4.2 is better than the 4% muni, right? So that's what we're going through. I have one, I have a very good example of this, Michelle, on my channel. If you put in tax-free or tax-free equivalent, I've got like several videos. The one I put on the Facebook group, if you go to our Facebook group, Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks, I put up one I think is as complicated as you're going to receive on this. Maybe that was you, Michelle, that asked on Facebook, but I have one up there for you.
How many different exams does this question show up on?
What's that?
How many different exams?
Yeah, Brian, I think that shows up SIE 6, 7, 65, right on.
Yeah.
Any recommendations for Series 6 this Friday? Yes, I would watch my Series 6 in 60 minutes video. You can certainly fit that into your program. I would want you to do a couple practice exams. You could do 2 for sure, probably them. I would tell you, Angel, if you did well on your SIE, and thank you for joining us from LinkedIn, you should be okay. I think you can almost pass out of a 6 based on doing a good job on your SIE. Now, I would review between now and Friday communication, retail communication. I would review customer accounts, and I would review variable annuities. Brian, would you add anything to that?
Absolutely. I love that you added those. Because everybody talks about mutual funds, but the annuities, the customer account, and the retail versus institutional communications. Absolutely. Right. Yep.
And Angela, I hate to tell you this, but we will see you again in the future for Series 7. I feel like starting every Series 6 class by saying, why don't you just get a 7? Because you're going to need one eventually. If an agent gets a call to sell, I think we did that one already, didn't we not, Silas? We talked about Rule 144. Yes, if that's different than Silas, if this is a second person, scroll back and you'll see it. Brian and I answer that question. If you're stuck 80, you are memorizing questions. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but avoid it. I've been trying to get Kaplan to rotate their answer sets. I'm not a tech guy, but it seems like that would be pretty easy, where as you go through the exam, the next time you get the same question, but the answer set has been rotated on you, just to keep you, kind of fresh. Any tips? Yeah. Again, same thing I said on the SIE review, the 33 questions on investment vehicles. I have a video on exactly that, the 33 questions. Watch my explication of the SIE content outline. You have plenty of time. I have enough content on the SIE, by the way, that you can pass the SIE with just the resources on my channel. I don't recommend it. I'm a supplement, but I got a zillion SIE content there. Oh, Brian's right. I always forget. It would be a sin. Angels would weep for you, Brianna, if you don't do the FINRA practice test. I would do that tomorrow, right? You're testing Friday, so do that tomorrow. Tomorrow morning when you're bright-eyed and bushy, go grab that thing. That's a really good practice test in terms of score and in terms of content. Oh, well, we feel sorry for you. We feel like we should start a support network for people using Past Perfect. Going on with you, done with my Muni section. Good. Can you go over Series 7 math, please? Well, not on a Tuesday night live stream, I can't. But good news for you, I do have a video. I have 2 videos. I have all the math necessary to pass the Series 7. Now, be careful. I didn't say all the math. I said all the math necessary. I also have a tutoring replay where somebody asked me to do it with them, and we did, and she gave me permission to put it on the channel. So you can check out the version of me doing it, hit pause, and then see if you can do the math. And then you can check out the one if you like Misery Loves Company, which it seems like most people like on the channel. See other people try to do it with me. You can check out that video as well. So check that out. I don't know when you're testing, but I got 2 videos for you. If you have particular math you would like Brian and I to show you, we're more than happy to show you math. But all the math is not what the live stream is about. Third attempt. Oh, my goodness. Debating on study materials that will help me pass. Well, I'm kind of worried that you don't have study materials. Did you have training consultant or Achievable? I'm hoping you didn't go down there on your first 2 attempts without any kind of study materials. If you're looking to supplement, I think Kaplan is the best. So I would recommend Kaplan. Certainly not Past Perfect because they take you into the weeds. I think STC is a fine test prep vendor. The only thing that makes me tilt to Kaplan, and this is Brian and I both, is what makes Kaplan the better choice is the QBank and how you can customize it and do the performance tracker. And there's way more questions. And so what tips the balance and the recommendation to Kaplan? I'm not worried if you use STC, but what would tip me to say Kaplan is the QBank at Kaplan. I would not recommend Past Perfect. They don't like me and I don't like them. And I don't like them because they just give people way, way too much, right? They take you into the weeds. So, I mean, if you can pass a Past Perfect practice test, you're in good shape. But my God. All right. Woohoo!
Big
66 is next, right? Or maybe not. Drew, tell us what's next. 63 or 66? You got your 2 legs of your hat trick. One more trick. Now, there's Brian, you're the hockey guy. We have the hockey assist, right? What's it called when I get it to you and then you give it to the next guy and next guy scores? What's that called?
Yeah, those are assists. Yeah.
And does that count? Does that count in my hat trick?
No. It's only goals. Goals are only hat tricks.
Oh, well, that's it. You don't get any.
Not assists. No.
So a hat trick means 3 goals, not 3.
3 goals. No assists.
Wow. Well, no wonder that's so rare.
That's right.
I mean, many hockey games don't even have 3 goals in them. Right? Yeah, Lagavulin is a very good scotch. It certainly is. I have bars that I'm a regular. And some bars I've actually invested in. Her name is Gina. And I come in and Gina tells me, hey, Dean, there's this guy who came in. He wanted a scotch. And I told him, we have this guy who drinks this scotch. It must be good. And it's called Lagavulin. And she goes, Dean, I poured it for him. And oh my God, it was corked. I go, Gina, what the heck are you talking about? She goes, it smelled like gasoline. I said, Gina, no. That is the smell from the smoky, peaty part of Isla. That is not, I said, it's good. I threw it out. I go, oh my God. Anyways, I told you should start them out with, something a little mellower than that. And anyways, I was telling the guy who owns the bar, and he goes, who is it? I'm going to fire him. I go, listen, it's not a story of retribution. It's a funny story. And listen, my friend, that's on you. If you're going to put people behind the bar who don't even know what's behind the bar, that's on you. Hey, Dean and Brian, pass the SIE 7 and just pass the 63. Wow. There's the hat trick. Woohoo. Yeah, pass perfect is woof. They're tough. Sorry to bother you. Well, don't be sorry. We're here on Tuesday nights, every Tuesday, to be bothered. Can you clarify settlement dates? I certainly can. There's only one settlement date. It's T+1.
That's it.
Regular way, right? Regular way. Are there irregular ways to do business? Yes, but nobody does. That's why it's called regular way. The Uniform Practice Code standardizes practices within the securities industry. We all agree in the securities industry, regular way settlement between broker dealers is T+1. Please note, I said regular way settlement between broker dealers is T+1. So trade date is when we agree to terms. Settlement is when ownership changes hands. Now, one irregular way to settle a trade, we don't assume you're doing business for cash settlement, not a cash account, cash settlement. Cash settles same day. Reg T says we got to give customers 2 additional days to pay for their purchases. In a cash account or in a margin account, doesn't matter. We don't like to tell them that, but, because we don't want to use our money to settle their trade. But as a margin clerk, I can't actually come after a customer until T+1 + 2. That's why Brian has on his whiteboard there T+3, right? Because that's what that ends up being. Right at that point, I say, hey, where's your money? And, I get you an extension, I get you a mailgram. And at some point, if you don't pay as a margin clerk, I'm going to sell you out. By the time I sell you out, the stock could be up. You bought 1,000 shares at 40 and I sell you out the stocks at 50. Then you say, well, Dean, I want the profit. I said, well, you never paid for the purchase. I'm going to send you the profit. I have to, that $10,000. But then I'm going to say, you free rider, you took a ride you didn't pay for. You used broker dealer money to do that. And now I'm going to freeze your account for 90 days. Now, what's frozen is not your trading privileges, but rather your credit privileges. For the next 90 days, I want cash or securities up front. Now, another irregular way to settle trades is DVP, where I say, hey, deliver the securities to my bank, and my bank will give you a check. That's called delivery versus payment. It's for institutional accounts, and there we have up to 35 calendar days. If you've been seeing different T+ dates, it's probably because you're using old material and watching an old video or something. God knows I've made a gazillion videos updating everybody for T+1. We live in a T+1 world. We're on our way to a, real-time settlement world. And Brian and I go so far back that we always laugh when people get freaked out about this, because when we came in the business, can you imagine how realistic customers would be? When Brian and I came in the business, it was T+5. So, we had 5 days to settle the trade.
In those 30 years, right, financial institutions have become far more digital. Yeah. Where there used to be a time when people would actually physically deliver a stock certificate.
Absolutely.
So it required time for transfer agents to transfer the ownership, collect the monies that were owed or delivered. So as the digital age has come upon us, this settlement has shrank.
Well, and also it's also shrinking. I'll just add to that, Brian. The other reason it's shrinking is it's hard to renege on a trade on T+1. Right. We actually know when you have defaulted. With T+5, it gives people longer times to not make good, to renege, to try and renegotiate. Hey, in our 1929 book by Aaron Sorkin that we're talking about on Thursday, That was World Brian's talk about, where we had physical boys, they were boys, then they'd be running securities back and forth down Wall Street, right?
Yeah. Over the counter to the broker.
Can you change the font size of our prospectus? I can't imagine. I think we could always make it larger. I don't think I can make it smaller. I'm not sure. I don't think there's any test content there. Can you change the content? But I know you can't change the content or highlight. That's true. Font size increase. There we go. I would think that'd be okay. I mean, I would say yes to that because that helps the client read better. So I would think the answer would be yes to that. I don't think we could decrease because then it sounds like we're trying to make it so small you can't read it. My cigar lounge, Brian, I said, man, that's crazy. The guy who owns it is a friend of mine. His name's Steve. And he says, you take a picture in this sign and you put it on social media, I'll give you a free cigar. And I said, wow. Okay. Well, I smoke, expensive cigars. I go, I'll go down there. And then my brother said, well, didn't you read the part that says it can't be more than $10? I go, oh, where was that? It was a small one. 82 on Sunday, been hitting 70, some in the 80s, but the past perfect QBank isn't as good as Kaplan. Yeah, I just think the QBank, my issue with past perfect is that, the QBank gives you the wrong flavor because they ask questions you're not going to see. They ask questions that are spot on and are good, but they're mixed in with these questions that you're just not going to see. And that distracts or clouds people's minds sometimes. So, yeah, I do have an issue with that. I do think Kaplan, I mean, Brian and I, we have at Kaplan, there are subject matter experts. And for Series 7, it's a guy named Bill James. And for NASA exams, it's a guy named Chuck Lowenstein. And I have to say, as much as I love them, they too, every once in a while, have a gotcha question or a question you go, but they don't do it as often as our friends at Past Perfect. Any recommendations other than retaking? I don't know what to tell you. It's a challenge because Solomon exam prep was sold to Past Perfect, and Jeremy Solomon, he offered almost every series exam content, and the only competitor that did that was Past Perfect. And so now you're kind of stuck on some of these esoteric exams. Even Kaplan used to offer all kinds of exams, prep content that they don't do anymore. And even me on my YouTube channel, as much as I want to do other things, I mean, I have lots of content on 3 and 79 that I could put up and I'm working on, but it's just okay. What speaks to my audience more, another SIE practice exam or a Series 3 SIE? So it's just kind of difficult to do that. So 65 passes 63. Yeah, well, the Uniform Securities Act, Chris, is the Uniform Securities Act, right? So the flavor on the 63 is more about agents and broker dealers, and the tilt to 65 is investment advisors, investment advisor reps. But at the end of the day, registration is registration. I was considering quizzing these sections without reading. Well, I don't know when your test date is. 65. I would say okay. Let me tell you about Plan B. Yeah. So I have a person right now I'm working with, and he's worked very, very hard, and he's missed his 66 a couple times. And I told him, I said, the 63 and the 65 are the equivalent of the 66. And I basically told him, why don't you next Tuesday go take the 63? I don't think you need to do additional study to do that. And I think you can get a testing victory, and then we can move on to the 65. And I told him, I don't think, because he took the 66, he's going to have to do much more work on the regulatory side. He can spend all his time on the investment vehicles. So I like that idea, depending on how long until you test. And it looks like Brian has some ideas on his whiteboard. Brian, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's right. And Dean already mentioned this, that the biggest difference between the 63 and the 65 is you're going to find so much more investment advisor stuff that the 63 might just brush upon. The policy statement from NASA, there are 2 separate ethics statements, one for broker dealers and agents, which you probably saw many questions on the 63. And there's one for IAs and IARs, which you're going to predominantly see on the Series 65. So do you want to skip that material? Make sure you brush up on the IA, IAR disclosures and ethical behavior, and make sure you do those QBank questions on this. That's going to be the biggest difference in the laws and regs under the USA.
Right on, right on. Now, listen, I am off grid. And I have been thinking about adding another Zoom session for an off-grid happy hour for people who do just want to come and drink and smoke and celebrate testing victories. And so BS Kuhn 01, if you will let me know when you plan on doing your celebratory toasting, whether it's from a bar, I'm off grid, I will send you a Zoom link, and I will break out the Selection Suprema, and I will break out a fine stogie. In fact, I had to order a bigger humidor, Brian, because I'm running out of room. I'm looking for the guy, and it's raining, and I don't want to leave with this new humidor. It's a 1,500 count humidor, and I'd be more than happy to do that Zoom link for you. And something I'm thinking about. I might do that in our monthly book club. Maybe I'll pour myself a cocktail and light up a cigar.
There you go.
I haven't heard of that. Addict Vivo Extra Neo. So for those who are joining us, listen, we drink, we smoke, and we know things. So the first rule of tequila is, for people who don't like tequila, you probably had rot gut shit. The first rule of tequila is you have to have 100% blue agave. That's the first rule. Everybody in my family knows that. I'm sometimes surprised when they know that, because they'll buy me a tequila. Oh, it's 100% agave. Well, Dean, that's your first rule. Now, the other things in Espanol is Blanco. Blanco is tequila that has not been rested. Right? Then we have Reposado. That's tequila that's been rested. That's what Reposado means. And then we have Añejo. Añejo means it's been aged for at least a year. And usually extra Añejo means extra aging, and that makes the tequila a little smoother. So that sounds like a good tequila just based on the name, but it sounds good to me. Yay! Took the 66 on sponsored, so happy it's all over now. Well, there you go. We're happy for you too. And boy, I got to tell you, Ovo, I like your hair, man. That's some good looking hair there. Yeah, me not so much. Welcome to the securities industry. Did you use Notman? I hope Notman is fantastic. I don't like just saying Notman because it's called Notman Marks, and Notman has retired, but Brian Marks is a hell of a guy. I just love him a lot. Take my 65 tomorrow. What is the most common math problem? Well, Kelsey, I'm not sure we should even answer this because, it might just cloud your mind. So I'm going to see what Brian says. I'm going to say total return. I'm going with total return. What would you go with, Brian?
That is definitely one, but there's one little kicker to it. The total return is often on the 65, and it's usually after tax return.
Brian, I told you I did your practice question of the tutoring session yesterday, and you had a great one with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
the additional one, yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the one in this format that I'm a little afraid of bringing up.
Yeah.
I hear this one a lot. Alpha.
Okay, well, let me address this, Kelsey.
Sorry.
Well, that's okay.
But this one's definitely on there quite a bit.
Okay, I just want to clarify whether Brian agrees with me or not in terms of how I'm going to tell you, Kelsey, it'll be tested versus how test prep vendors. So let's see if Brian concurs. Test prep vendors, I'm teaching a 66 right now, and tomorrow we're going to be doing analytical methods and performance measures, and there's more performance measure questions than analytical methods. That being said, though, let's say that we have a security with a beta 1.5, and the market return is 10%. And so, what is our expected return? So on your test tomorrow, Kelsey, you would just take the market return of 10 and times it by 1.5 and tell me that the expected return is 15%. Now, let's say our actual return was 18%. So the alpha would be the 3%. It's the excess return over beta. I think it's that simple on your test tomorrow. Now, test prep vendors, Brian, sometimes introduce the concept of the risk-free rate of return. and say the risk-free rate of return is 3. So now we have to say, okay, well, we could have got, instead of 10, we could have got 3 without doing anything. That's 7. We didn't really get 15 because minus 3. Do you think she's going to, on the real test, they introduce?
I tell people all the time, ignore the one in the textbook. I get a lot of heat from this in social media because I don't use those formulas in the textbook to calculate alpha. It is exactly the way you just said it is. It's the difference, and I simplify it because I'm the great distiller, right?
Yeah.
It's simply the difference between the historic or the expected return versus the actual return. Those difference, right, is excess beta, which is alpha.
Yeah, and Kelsey, we apologize. We may have taken a road you didn't need to take.
Yeah, it's.
But hey, listen, here's the deal. Here's the deal. So, part of coming up on 9 million views, and part of Brian and I have decades of experience in helping tens of thousands of test takers, is that we actually know more than the people who are writing these damn practice questions and doing this kind of stuff. And so it's exasperating, Brian. I think when we get heat in social media, because we teach to the test, we don't teach to, like one of my haters brags about being a CFA and he got a 94% on a Series 7. I'm like, okay, and you've helped how many people? Hundreds of people? Brian and I have helped thousands of test takers. So please, trusting a test prep vendor and how they lay out something on the test, or testing Brian and I, please trust us. And I just had somebody today, I think, was it this? I'm losing, I apologize, but I had somebody, I think earlier in this live stream about, oh, well, how spot on are you? I go, well, just check out my comments, man. I mean, I don't have anybody coming back to flame Brian and I about. The only people who are flaming, this is Brian, isn't this exasperating? Yeah. We don't have any test taker coming back in social media and telling us, Brian, Dean, you misled us. The only haters we have are test prep vendors and other tutors, which I think, if I'm going to have haters, I'll take it.
Hey, Kelsey, also remember, and anybody else taking the 65 and 66, the test vendors have so much math in their textbooks, and it's nowhere near that much, nor is it nearly as sophisticated on the real test.
Particularly, I think
65, I have had thousands of people, and on average, anywhere from 3 to 6 questions on math where they actually used a calculator on the 65.
Yeah,
that's
there
it.
You go.
Not a lot.
There you go.
No
the guiltiest party, by the way, Kelsey, is past perfect in that regard. I gave up on trying to predict FINRA sets. Well, yeah, it's a random draw, right? I mean, so.
Yeah, you can't do it. I don't even know why you.
Since I'm taking my third and last attempt for Series 7, I'm a bit nervous. Well, yeah. How can I get over these nerves and be confident? You didn't tell us when you're doing it. So, Lauren, here we go. Brian was hoping he was going to make it this whole session without my 100% pass guarantee for you, Lauren. So here's how you do it. I want you tonight. No, maybe you could do it in a live stream and we could put you on Zoom with us.
There you go.
I want you tonight to go in to your bathroom. Brian disappearing. I want you to look in the mirror and I want you to say loudly and proudly, mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the greatest Series 7 test taker of them all? Lauren, 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 hoorah! Okay, 100% pass rate, but you can do it in the morning. When you wake up in the morning, go back into the bathroom. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the greatest Series 7 test taker of them all? Lauren, Lauren, Lauren. I want you to do that every morning and every night between now and test time. One last time. At break, when you get about 60 questions deep and you start to wobble a little bit, I want you to take a bathroom break. I want you to go into the bathroom. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the greatest Series 7 test taker of them all? Lauren, Lauren, Lauren. Hoorah! So there you go. That's how I would say you get more confident. Now, being serious, and I am serious, make sure you overlearn. The more you overlearn, the more you are dedicated, disciplined, and organized, the more confidence you have in the execution of your study plan. and the content itself, that takes care of confidence. Now, I would tell you, Lauren, uh, I am not somebody who wants to be the Tony Robbins of the FINRA and NASAA test taking world. So I don't have hype videos because I don't think hype is helpful. Don't want to be a Tony Robbins guy or a Zig Ziglar guy. I do post motivational videos on the Facebook page from third parties, but I would tell you that lies within, and they say fake it till you make it, but try and do as much work as you can. And then you just got to go with what you got. And Brian, how many times do we believe that confidence can be the difference? Because, you can't be changing answers. And the biggest thing I think about lack of confidence that does people in is when they're second guessing themselves. I have a guy I'm working with, and he is such a smart guy. And I said, listen, Brian, don't take it personal, but tough love time. You're too smart for your own good, Brian. You're outsmarting yourself. You're overthinking the damn thing. Where is this? Where is this in the question? We were doing a tax-free thing the other day, just in this session, and this guy was doing a tax-free equivalent yield. I go, where is that? Does it say anything about this guy's tax bracket? It doesn't. Where's that coming from? Exactly. So, don't make it harder than it has to be. Harder than it has to be. I'm preparing to pass my SIE exam. Well, Jacob, I would prefer, boy, I love that. You should go along in my cigar lounge. We just need to put a stogie and a nice whiskey in your hand, and you look like you're ready there. Anyways, and areas of my struggles, I was very weak at understanding trading, customer accounts, and well, geez, there we go. Those are all serious, right? So securities on the Securities Essential Exam are very important, and how we trade securities, right? There's the primary and the secondary market. That's huge. Customer accounts, joint accounts, UTMA accounts, huge. And what you can't do as a rep, all huge. So, my friend, those are target-rich environments, and you definitely got to get those under control between now and test time. My struggles on the exam, I was very weak. So I'm assuming you're preparing to pass, but then it says I was very weak. So does that mean, Brian, that he's missed the mark the first time? How do you read that? Do you read that as missing the mark?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Maybe
let's just say, I'll just repeat. If you miss the mark the first time, if you actually miss the mark on the actual exam, this would definitely be the reason.
Right.
And if these are practice tests and you're identifying these in the performance tracker, thank God, because you need to address that. Yeah. Fox Cigar Lounge in Scottsdale. There we go. I like it. Now, Jordan, I'm sorry for going through our list here. Were you the same person drinking that nice tequila? Because you sound like a guy I would be willing to meet in Scottsdale and do a nice tequila and smoke a nice stogie with. Past the 7. Woo! Oh, man, Tessa, how much do we love this? I read the book cover to cover. Oh! Tessa, we wish we could get people to do that. It's so key to knowing what the terrain looks like, doing the recon. Wow, I love it. 80%. Any specific areas to heavily focus? Well, I'm 66, yes. I'm teaching a 66 right now, Tessa, and we're in unit 13 and 14. Who cares what unit is? It's disclosures on ethical business practices. That's 25 questions. That's 1/4 of that exam. So make sure you're really good at the disclosures that are necessary on ethical business practices. Now, Brian and I are now going to tell you something that there's no reason, Tessa, for you not to have a pep in your step. You passed your Series 7, you slayed your Series 7 dragon, and now you should feel good going into the cave to slay the 66 dragon. But sometimes people get a little bit of hubris. And when they miss the 66, it's sometimes because some of the investment vehicles look like they overlap, but they overlap in a different way. The way the 66 comes at things like balance sheets and present value and future value. And Brian and I's experience has been more people, I don't want to sound negativized because I think you're going to pass, but we found more people miss the 66, surprisingly enough, because of investment vehicles rather than regulation. So make sure you focus on those investment components of the 66 that are much different than your 7.
Exactly.
Like analytical methods and performance measures. Your thoughts, Brian? I know we're pretty symbolic on this one.
Absolutely. I have dedicated myself for a decade on trying to increase that Series 66 pass rate. Because again, for me, theoretically, I mean, if you're good enough to pass a 7, why the hell shouldn't you be able to pass the 66? Why are people failing at a greater rate than they are the 7? Obviously, like Dean said, it's probably because of content that's not on the 7. There are some investment vehicles, futures and forwards, some of the alternatives, the analysis, discounted cash flow, time value of money. The analysis of balance sheets are different than the 7. It's about liquidation ratios. The laws and regs, believe it or not, are typically the area that people score the highest on this exam. And it's these other areas you think, well, there's only 17 questions on investment vehicles. Yeah. But when you come back to me and say you only scored a 70% on your exam, right? And your laws and regs are at like 76 and your investment vehicles are at 61%, that's what tells me that there's some areas there that we need. Another area in investment vehicles that you don't see on Series 7, the different types of life insurance of all things. Because it's more important in the advisory world than it generally is in the brokerage world. So just like Dean said, pay attention to those areas that are different from the 7. Analytical methods and the investment vehicles. Those two.
Right on. Right on. Some nuggets. Brian dropping gold. And getting into cigars myself, I just got myself a humidor. Rocky Padel's great. I have the Rocky Patel Decades. I stock those. I don't stock Actions. They're great cigars. They're just a little too mild for me. Slowly starting to try different ones and see what I like. And then that's the way to do it, man. You develop your palate from, usually it's like cigars. Usually people start with like, whether it's, Scotch or whatever, coffee, they start light and then medium and then end up full. But I think there's a place for every flavor profile. So, my cigar people are sometimes surprised when I say I'm looking for a creamy, mellow cigar. And they go, really? You? Because they know I usually smoke, full-bodied cigars. I go, well, yeah, I like a morning smoke every now and then. In the morning, I don't want to blow on my palate with a full-bodied Nicaraguan, right? Maybe a little lighter Dominican Republic one. Past the 7. Woo! I'm so jealous of these young men's hair, man. Look at that hair. That's a great looking hair. Couldn't have done it without your help. Well, there you go. Also, bear down, Arizona, folks. So forks down. Fork them. We have a Sparky. We'll see how we do. So, I'm a Sun Devil and we do pretty good. I used to go to Bryce to the Cal games because I spent a lot of my career in the Bay Area. And I have a friend named Lee and he's a Cal graduate. And so we would go to Bear ASU games, basketball, football, whatever the case was. It was kind of our thing to do. And one time we were out and he was out with his Cal friends. And every time somebody said Cal, they'd go Bears. I guess that's a thing they do. And I go, what is that? He told me, I'm so glad we don't do that. But, we had James Harden was a Sun Devil. So it'd be fun. I got to see some really good basketball games there. I spent more time going to ASU games in the Bay Area than I did when I was at ASU. So. I was teaching Brian in New York, and I forget how it came up, but somehow it came up that I'm a Sun Devil, and this is serious. Our business sometimes has so many pretentious people. And the guy came up to me, he goes, Dean, we would not want our clients to think that you are working here as a Sun Devil. I thought, oh my God. I said, he goes, all the people here at our firm are, Harvard, Yale, Princeton. I said, well, I hate to burst your bubble a little bit, but you know what that is? HYP, hype. I didn't go to one of those hype schools. I went to wow. What's the best way to remember those areas? I'm not sure what areas, Jacob. I apologize. Let me go back and see what Jacob asked us about. I'm struggling with the exam. What's the best way to take care of those areas? Well, again, I believe in identifying. You've identified them, as we said, Jacob. We love that you've identified those as areas to remediate. I believe the way you remediate is to go to those areas, watch a video to put a dent in the reading, or do the reading, read those sections again, and then watch a video to consolidate that reading.
Exactly.
Then do some practice questions on that. Now, again, listen, Brian is my brother from another mother, so we are in most situations simpatico. But I would like you to do 25, 30 questions. I believe in doing more questions than my friend Brian. What'd you say, Brian? 15, 12, 15?
Yeah.
So whatever. Let's just, whatever number you pick, it's a buffet. Take what you like. But both of us agree that before you move on, you should be able to get 70, 75%. Let's call it 75. And then you can move on, remediate the second area. But you should not randomly be doing practice exams without the remediation, right? So that's the biggest point. And then you'll find your scores going up on both the practice test in those areas. So, Brian, you got your whiteboard going again?
Yeah, I'm just reiterating what you just said, what we've said about an hour ago. Find those weak areas, which you've identified. Get into Dean's videos, or like I said, if you have my video course, those particular areas. Those areas, if I'm not mistaken, help me out here, Dean, I think is in...
They were all big time. Trading, customer accounts, and prohibited activities.
I think they're in section 3 of the SIE.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So, yeah. So,
yeah.
But Jacob, we got to give you kudos.
Organized.
We got to give you kudos because you've actually identified it before you were testing, which is the key, right?
Yeah.
Because if that was something you didn't know, you would have, I don't think you would have made your mark.
Right.
And I'm not quite sure from the context. Like I say, I'm reading your original post. I'm not quite sure if you've been down there to slay the SIE dragon, but how important is it to identify where you're weak in areas for remediation before you test? Brian, I would get fired if I worked at the Prometric site because I'd say, what do you know, Brian? You go, I'm going to find out. I go, well, that's stupid. You're going to find out now what you know? Brian, you should have done that before you got here. Why? I mean, you should know what you know and what you don't know. Right? That's what made Socrates, Jacob, the wisest man in the world, because he knew what he didn't know. Right? And so, God, we would love to work with test takers, Jacob, like you, who know what they don't know before they actually get down there. I've had to tell Jacob sometimes, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here, but I've had to tell people, you're not even in a place where you know what you don't know. How am I going to help you? Right? You got to first do enough work to find out what you don't know. All right, LinkedIn. Sophia, thank you so much for joining us from LinkedIn. Past Series 7 and 66. Woo! Thanks for the videos. All right, I listen to them and repeat my way home. I don't, Sophia, so thank you so much for your watch time. But I don't think that I really have 9 million individual viewers on my YouTube channel. I do think it's Sophia watching one video 9 million times. I'm joking. But I think a lot of those views are people on repeat, so to speak. So we're coming up. Can you believe it? We crossed, Brian, 2 million watch hours on the YouTube channel. So I, in my own mind, go, oh my goodness, 2 million hours people have spent with me. I have healthy self-esteem, but I don't think I want to spend 2 million hours with me. So I told Brian the story. This is incredible on YouTube. Who would have thunk at my age, I'm an official social media influencer, YouTuber kind of guy. And it's shocking to my world sometimes because, my electrical grid, I don't realize that people come in here and do work for me sometimes see my thing behind me and they look me up or whatever. But I went to cash a check at the bank and, was made out the Series 7 guru. And the banker says, oh, you're that guy on YouTube. I go, oh, yeah, that's me. Oh, our bankers are getting an election tonight. Oh, I was joking with Brian in Vegas. I said, I was getting to the point I was going to be rude. And then I thought, oh, man, I can't be rude because somebody's going to put something on social media like, hey, the Series 7 guru is in here. And what an asshole. And you're 66. Well, like I say, it sounds like you have completed your testing journey. You have completed the test taking registration hat trick, and our season is over. A little bit of melancholy there, but thank you so much. And how gratifying it is for Brian and I when we can contribute to people matriculating through those exams, so you now can, help your clients, help yourself, help your family, and start making some money. I'm getting mixed signal on FINRA needs a copy of every complaint. Well, no, it's done in tabular form. So the test question is they don't need a copy of every complaint, but you have to give them a tabular format of the complaint. I mean, you could certainly send them the complaint. It's done quarterly unless there's a sense of urgency, and then it needs to be done immediately, which is 10 days. There you go. You said, sorry, I didn't read the second sentence. That's the test question, right? And then if they want, they can ask you for the particular copy. But don't certain complaints need to be forwarded within 30 days? Yes. Well, it's not 30, it's 10. But those would be complaints about embezzlement, times of the essence kind of things. Like I think this guy cashed a check, fraudulent conversion, those kind of things. So, Brian, your thoughts on that?
Definitely don't need to send everyone.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I made it almost through my entire career, Brian, without a written complaint. Almost. Lenny, District 1 FINRA examiner, said, Dean, where's your complaint file? And I said to Lenny, I said, I don't have one because I don't have any complaints. And he said, well, what are you going to do if you get one? I said, well, I'll make a complaint file. I thought this was legit. He said, Dean, I want you to make a complaint file. And then I want you to every quarter date it, no complaints received. I said, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. Anyways, one of my go-to moves, Brian, was to send you a teaser, a term sheet, on my current investment opportunity, right? And I send this out every 6-12 months, depending on what I'm working on. Anyways, this guy get the term sheet, and I write on it. I said, Brian, I think you would find this of interest, And sometimes I wouldn't write it. Sometimes I'd have my sales assistant write it, handwritten. It was my kind of go-to move, snail mail, which nobody uses anymore, and red pen. And, Michelle would sometimes write, Dean thinks you would find this of interest. He'll follow up with a phone call. And then my sales assistant would log the call. And anyways, I get the ping on my computer, and it's a guy who I sent the teaser to. And he said, Dean, I appreciate the teasers, but please don't send me any more, teasers, term sheets. I'm not interested. Please remove you from your contact list. And so, Brian, I went into my my database, and I put in every field except his name and his company, do not contact, all caps. Anyways, I had told Michelle to send to our prospects and clients at this particular public company the teaser. And she knows the physical address because, again, we physically write the address. We physically write the thing. And so I queue up my calls, and there's this guy's name. I go, oh. Michelle didn't read any of the fields that say do not contact. She simply pulled up the query for the company, and all the names came up, and then she did her thing. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, did this get lost in the mail? Maybe I don't have to deal with this. As I'm thinking about this, now sometimes it's more challenging when you're your own Series 24. And anyways, so I'm thinking about ping. It's from this guy. WTF exclamation points. I thought you told me. Oh, I forgot, Brian, when he first called me, I said, there's one more in the mail to you, Brian. I'm just checking the data here. And so after that, you won't never hear from me again. Even worse. And it was like, oh, I say, I apologize profusely. Let me tell you what happened. I don't remove you completely from my database because I don't want to accidentally re-enter you. And so I don't remove you. I just put in all the fields, do not contact, but I don't strip the field that says, you work at Oracle, for example. And so that's what happened. And I explained the whole situation to him. And I will now strip that, here's how I'm going to do that. And then I thought, okay, now do I have to print that and put it in the complaint file? And I know that if Lenny found that email and I did not put that in the complaint file, oh my God, he would be on my butt, right? So that's the only written complaint I received in my 30-year securities industry career. Oh, well. Well. Now, by the way, your point about the quarterly, I need a summary of that. He's not accusing me of stealing his money. He's accusing me of being an idiot, which I still have trauma, PTSD, that I think I'm going to get back in the business and send this guy something. He's going to go off on me. The Series 7 test Fed monetary policy, no, they bifurcated it. It's on your SIE. I think they will test you on inflation adversely affecting fixed income investment vehicles, for example, and inflation, as a hedge, common stocks and tips. But yeah, I wouldn't want you spending time on fiscal or monetary policy as it relates to 7. Brian, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Past the 7. Woohoo! There you go. Edward used the mirror on the wall. So there you go, Lauren. I told you, 100% pair. 2 things that have the 100% pass rate. Mirror on the wall and Mom's prayer box. Mom's prayer box is undefeated. Recommend that people advanced options. I have really great videos on advanced options. So I have an option playlist. I'm the only guy on YouTube with a free options playlist. I am not a greedy bastard. My stuff is free. Past the 7, thinking of mirror works. Oh, I think that's the same one. 63 on Friday. Love it. That's great. You're right where you need to be.
Good range. Yep.
I've seen the vast majority of subject matter. Yeah, well, there you go. That's true. I think the 10 is right up there. I would put the 10 and the 65 as the hardest exams. Now, Brian says he knows the pass rates. I don't, but anecdotally, I think 10 and 65. Brian, what do you think? Hardest to pass.
Absolutely. The 10, I put those in 2 different categories. The 24, the 3, or the 4, those supervisory licenses. And the 10 is definitely the top one.
I think
for the entry exams, 65, no doubt. Anecdotally has the lowest pass rate that I see.
There you go. Hey, Carla. Carla's in my class today. I'm teaching a Guru Exam Prep Kaplan collaboration. We do it once a quarter, and we're doing our 66. So, Carla, thank you so much for joining us. I will see you tomorrow, and I think you had a QID you wanted me to go over, and we can do it anytime you want. If you want to join, I'm going to open the class from 30 minutes early tomorrow. We can do it early. We could do it after class, whatever you'd like. Find some more. Maybe find some more QIDs. Don, one of our favorites, movie star, sunglasses. 6326. I love it. Taking Brian's tomorrow. I love Brian's way to remember who is in person.
Some people get offended with that, believe it or not.
I like it. I'm going to steal it. Dead, stupid teenager. Okay, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, part of the NASAA exams are the legal component. And persons are people who can be held legally accountable for their behavior. That's just law in general, but law as it relates to NASAA exams. And so when we say you're not a person, it means you can't be held accountable. So you can't hold dead people accountable. I think Brian means stupid. I think he means people who have been declared mentally incompetent. So Brian is not woke. He's not politically correct. And then you can't hold minors accountable as well. Don, I was telling Brian that I couldn't find for Mom when we travel anymore handicap rooms. So I was thinking, what happened to handicap rooms? And so I could find accessible rooms. And so finally I asked my hotel that I stay at quite a bit. I go, hey, what happened to the handicap rooms? They go, well, Dean, they're now called accessible rooms. So I can't find them. I think I was telling Brian, well, what about handicap spots? And I said, well, I still refer to the plate on Mom's car as a handicap plate, and the parking spots are still handicapped. But now that I've told you this story, Brian, I do now see some of the signs don't say handicap, they say accessible. So maybe that's the new word.
I don't know.
Thanks, guys. Just confused when question asked in words. What changes SMA? Well, if you make a deposit, remember your debit balance goes down and your equity goes up. So that could affect the SMA. But almost always, the only exception, here's what I would just tell you, just game, and this is a test prep vendor thing, not a secure real test. The only time that you get an SMA entry that isn't a function of mark to market, got to get past your high water mark. The only time that's not true is when you sell securities in a restricted account. A restricted margin account is an account that is below 50% equity. And so when you're below 50% and you sell securities, if you don't tell me any differently as a margin clerk, I'm paying down your loan. You would not know you're restricted unless you ask for a check, because if you don't ask for a check, I'm just going to pay down the loan. But if you sell, let's say you sell $5,000 worth of securities and your account is restricted, and you say you want to check. I said, well, just Kane, I said, did I tell you you're restricted? And you say, no, you never did. I said, well, it didn't matter till just now. What's kicking off this conversation is you're below 50% and you want to withdraw proceeds. The restriction on your account is of the $5,000, you can only have half, $2,500. You got to leave the other $2,500 in to pay down the loan. Now, I would prefer, Kane, that you leave the money in the account. So I'm going to make you a deal. If you will leave the entire $5,000 in your account, I will credit your SMA for the half you could have had and chose not to. That, Kane, is the only time I'm going to make a direct entry into your SMA. Now, as I told you in my channel search bar, if you put SMA in there, you will find all kinds of people like yourself who recalculate the account and tell me the SMA is 1,000, for example, not realizing that I'm going to credit you for $2,500. And so, do I think you're going to see anything like that on your test? I do not. Do I think you're going to see that in a test prep vendor question? Perhaps. Would this cover any 66 material? I don't know. Do you mean, Carla, the live stream in general? Well, this is a free-for-all. So the answer is in our live streams, we cover all FINRA NASAA exams. So, unlike our class, which we're doing presently, it's just about 66. So, but if you have a 66 question, we're more than happy to do it. Well, stock dividends is in cash. Stock dividend will not affect the debit balance. So just Kane, I think you're overdosing on margin. The cash will pay down the debit. Your equity will go up, right? If you pay down the mortgage, the equity of the house goes up. Testable knowledge on fiats. I don't know what you mean by fiats. You mean like the Italian sports car? Fix it again, Tony. I think, Daniel, maybe you mean fiat currencies. Maybe. That's the only thing I can think of is a fiat currency. This is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason, what's up?
Okay, so I just got your delivery driver out in the middle out by my boss's house. I'm bringing them by your place real quick to drop off your humidor.
Oh, thank you so much, Jason. I was wondering why you would be calling me this time of night. I'm wondering what the heck, where he's at. So, thank you.
He got stuck out there off of Dunkers, or whatever, Dunston, and it's right by my boss's house. And my boss says he's got his shit in the truck, and if he's stuck out there in the mud, I said, "Fine, it's all right." I said, "I'm gonna drive my truck in the mud, Alex."
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, well, or he can take it back and come back tomorrow. You better make sure my humidor, that's a couple $1,000 humidor, so you better not have any damage to it.
No, it's in the back.
Okay. All right, Jason, I appreciate you, my friend. Okay.
Less than 5 minutes.
No problem. I'll end my live stream and I'll take care of you guys. All right. Bye. Well, when you live off grid, that's always funny, right? So that was Jason. I thought, what the heck is Jason calling me? Well, the good news of off grid, everybody knows everybody. And he said he lives way off grid. I'm not so far off grid. He said I deliver my humidor is lost and it's raining and he's stuck and Jason is saving him and they're on their way to deliver my humidor. So crazy. And I'm hoping it's not damaged because if so, it's going back. All right. Well, listen, I guess that means it's time. I apologize here. It looks like we have some more things going on here. Why don't we do the drawing? I'll cut Brian loose. I'll circle back and until the delivery shows up with my humidor, I'll answer any remaining questions you may have. All right. So let's go grab our Wheel of Fortune. And Brian, thank you so much for joining us and sticking around past we're usually an hour, but it looks like we had quite a few questions tonight. So let me go grab our Wheel of Fortune. And then I'll come back and I'll answer until.
Dean, I know I'm getting old when I have to stand up for an hour and a half and my back starts hurting.
Oh, I apologize, Brian. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
You need to get yourself a big cushy chair.
Well, it's one of the reasons I'm not doing live classes because I never sit down for 8 hours.
Yeah. Okay. So what's going to be now? Please pay attention here. Don't put this into the chat until I tell you to, because you have to have it in the chat exactly how Brian is putting it on the board. So wait till I tell you go, and then you can put it in the chat. It's going to do spin, and it's going to tell you who wins the drawing. Okay, Brian, what is it going to be tonight? Okay, now is there a reason we're doing pineapple? Now I'm not going to put that in a capital A because that's going to mess people.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
that's all right.
I try to use it.
Okay, so now can you tell us, Brian, why you chose pineapple?
The Pineapple Express.
Oh, is that what this weird weather's about?
That's what all the rain's from.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know, man. Because I would, man, this is
5
crazy.
inches away. Yeah.
All right. So remember, what you win is not a tutoring at a date and time of your choice. What you win is a coaching call that you can access at deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. And let's do the drawing. We got 11 so far. Anybody else want to join the drawing? If you want to draw the drawing, put pineapple as you see it on the screen. And then I'll hit the button and we'll see who wins. And then again, we'll cut Brian loose, and then I'll stick around until my humidor shows up. 17. Okay, last call. Anybody else? 18. Okay, last call. Going once. Going twice. All right, boom. Wheel of Fortune.
And the winner is
Daniela. So Daniela, go to deantenneytutoring.setmar.com. Go to the class tab. You'll see coaching call for drawing winners, and you register, and it'll send you a link, and I'll see you, and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about in terms of your FINRA or NASA exams. Brian, thank you so much. I'll make sure not to put your back at risk next time, but I totally get it. Totally get it. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and answer any questions that we still have. So let me go back now until my humidor shows up. I have right now, I can store like 500, but I had to up my humidor game because I got way too many cigars. And so I had to up that game, so to speak. Let's get rid of the shared screen. Boom. There I am. And let's go and see where we left off here. Congrats. Boom, 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 boom. Struggling with public communications. Well, Combat Riddler, the two things on your series to know is retail communication versus correspondence. Retail communication requires principal approval pre-distribution, and it's for more than 25. 25 or less is correspondence, and that requires principal approval pre or post-distribution. You can do it any way you want. So that's what you need to know about public communications as it relates to the Series 7. Okay, boom, boom, boom. I'm just trying to find where we left off. We did that already. We did that. Tesla launch and on fiats. I think you meant currency. I'm not sure, Danielle. I think you won. Did you not just win? So good news. We'll find out what I'll see you for your coaching call. We'll figure that out and we'll go over it. There you go. Pop minus NAV. That's correct. How do you win a half-hour coaching call session? Sorry to ask. Well, you win, but Daniela just won it. So that coaching call is a 30-minute coaching call, and that's what she won in the draw. Thank you so much for everything. I doubt you remember me, but I did pass the test today. Woo-hoo! Kudos. Woo-hoo. All right, there's my humidor, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and, again, feel free to send me an email at dean@guruexamprep.com. It looks like I got quite a bit, and I'm more than happy. If you want, chat is open. Would you guys want me to deliver the humidor and just give me a few minutes to tell them where to place this and keep this open? Just put it in chat. If I tell these guys where to put this humidor, maybe 5 minutes, you want me to stay on or you want to call it a night? I'm taking a poll, basically. Nobody has thoughts one way or another. You guys apathetic? Apathetic? Well, you don't have to pay. You groundhog, don't pay. I'll tell you what. I'm going to have this. I'm going to be step away here for a minute because I got to have them bring this humidor in the studio. I'll come back, and if you're still here and you have some questions in the queue, I'll certainly answer them. So give me a couple minutes. I'm going to kill the mic because who knows? I don't think we're going to say anything untoward, but we might. Oh my God. That is awful. So how long have I been answering questions with no audio? Oh my God, I apologize. Oh man, that's bad. Bad form on my part. So I didn't get to the muted till the end. Your mic, I cut the mic because I didn't want you to hear me screaming profanities. I didn't do that. That's a different YouTube channel. We don't drop F-bombs indiscriminately here. We don't make inappropriate sexual innuendos here. But I didn't think you want to hear me go through the logistics of tipping my guys and getting my humidor indoors out of the rain. So I apologize. All right. Well, Daniela, just to review, you did win the coaching call and I did answer you. I was muted, but if you're still here, remember, we can talk about whatever you want in your coaching call. If you want to go over spreads and straddles, I'm more than happy to do so. And I think you had something else you wanted to talk about. I'm more than happy to do that as well. It's 30 minutes, but if we run over, it's not a problem. All right. Yeah. So yeah, bad form on my part. All right. So for those of you still here, thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. Remember, inch by inch, your exam's a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. We'll see you next Tuesday. If you need to reach out and get a hold of me, you can do so at dinaguruexamprep.com. Bye-bye, everybody.